What if the universe has been watching you this entire time, not to judge you, not to catch you doing something wrong, but with complete, unconditional love? What if every mistake you've ever made, every part of yourself you've hidden away in shame, every version of you that you've decided is too broken or too flawed to show the world, what if all of that was already seen, already known, and already loved without condition? That's the heart of Chapter 19 of The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. It's called The Loving Eyes of God, and it might be the most quietly radical idea in the entire book, because most of us have spent our whole lives managing how we appear, to other people, to ourselves, and even to whatever higher power or universe we believe in. We edit ourselves, we hide things, we perform. But Singer asks a simple, devastating question. What if there is nothing to hide from? What if the gaze you've been avoiding isn't a judgment, but an embrace? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, something might shift in the way you see yourself. Most of us carry an image of the divine that was handed to us early in life. A God who watches, who keeps score, who weighs your sins against your good deeds, and delivers a verdict. Even people who don't identify as religious often internalize a version of this. The universe is something neutral at best, indifferent or punishing at worst. We brace for consequences. We live as though life is a test we might fail. But Michael Singer challenges that image at its root. He teaches that the divine perspective, what he describes through the idea of the loving eyes of God, is not one of judgment at all. It is one of pure, unconditional witnessing. Awareness without condemnation. Singer points out that true spiritual consciousness, the kind of awareness that underlies all of existence, doesn't function the way the human mind does. The human mind categorizes, compares, criticizes, but consciousness itself, the deeper intelligence of the universe, simply sees. And in that seeing, there is no rejection. There is only love. Think about what that means for a moment. The part of you that you've decided is unlovable, the anger you feel ashamed of, the failures you replay at 2 a.m., the impulses and desires you've never told anyone, all of it is already visible to that deeper awareness. And it is met not with disgust, but with the same steady, open love. Singer isn't asking you to believe this blindly. He's pointing to something you can actually feel when you get quiet enough. The universe doesn't recoil from you. You recoil from yourself. So if the universe is watching us with love, why does it feel so terrifying to be fully seen? That's the question Singer turns to next, and the answer lives in something most of us have carried so long we don't even notice it anymore: shame. From a very young age, we learn that certain parts of us are acceptable and certain parts are not. We get praised for some behaviors and punished or ignored for others, and slowly, carefully, we begin to curate ourselves. We build a version of who we are that we believe the world will accept, and we bury everything else. Singer explains that this hiding doesn't just happen with other people, it happens internally. We suppress emotions, we avoid memories, we distract ourselves from feelings we don't want to face. And beneath all of that suppression is a core belief that if we were truly fully seen, all of us, not just the edited version, we would not be loved. We would be rejected. That belief is the engine behind so much of our suffering. It drives perfectionism, people-pleasing, overachievement, and self-destruction equally. All of it is the same movement, running from the fear of being unworthy of love. But Singer asks us to look at that belief directly. Where did it come from? Is it actually true? Or is it a story, a deeply conditioned story, that we've mistaken for reality? The loving eyes of God don't confirm that story. They contradict it, completely and gently, in every moment. Here's where Singer gets genuinely profound. He's not just talking about God in a theological sense, he's pointing to something much more immediate. The loving eyes of God represent the quality of pure spiritual awareness, and that awareness is not somewhere far away. It is right here. It is the witnessing consciousness that has been present in you your entire life. Think about this. No matter what has happened to you, no matter what you've done or left undone, there has always been a part of you that was simply aware of it, not judging it, not narrating it, just witnessing. Singer teaches that this witnessing awareness, what he sometimes calls the self, is actually an expression of that same divine love. It's the part of you that noticed the shame without becoming the shame. It's the part that saw the fear without collapsing into it. And it has never abandoned you. That presence, quiet, steady, always available, is what Singer is pointing to when he talks about the loving eyes of God. It's not outside of you waiting for you to earn its approval. It's the ground of your own awareness, and it is already looking at everything you are with complete acceptance. The practice, then, is not to become worthy of that gaze. The practice is to stop turning away from it, to stop averting your eyes from the part of you that sees clearly and loves completely, to let yourself be witnessed, truly witnessed, from the inside out. There's a cost to hiding that we almost never account for. Every part of yourself that you suppress, deny, or pretend doesn't exist, it doesn't disappear. It gets stored. It becomes a block of energy inside you that has to be maintained, managed, and protected. Singer calls this our stored impressions. The Sanskrit term is samskaras, and he explains that a significant portion of our daily energy goes into keeping all of that buried material from surfacing. Think about how exhausting that is. Think about how much of your mental and emotional bandwidth goes into not feeling certain things, not remembering certain events, not acknowledging certain truths about yourself. That is energy you could be using to actually live. When we genuinely accept that we are already seen, that the loving eyes of God have already looked at every corner of us and not turned away, something remarkable happens. The need to defend begins to dissolve. The elaborate internal architecture of self-protection starts to soften, and the energy that was locked in all of that guarding suddenly becomes available again. Singer describes this as one of the most tangible benefits of spiritual surrender. Not just peace, but vitality. A kind of aliveness that comes from no longer spending your life managing a persona. People who have touched this even briefly describe it as feeling lighter, clearer, more present. Not because their circumstances changed, but because they stopped fighting with their own inner experience. Singer brings this chapter home with one of the most important invitations in the entire book: surrender. Not surrender in the sense of giving up or losing, but surrender in the sense of finally, completely, letting yourself be seen. He teaches that the barrier between the false self we've constructed and our authentic spiritual nature is maintained by one thing: our refusal to be witnessed without armor. When we drop that armor, even for a moment, we experience something that can't quite be captured in words. A sense of recognition, a homecoming, the feeling that we were never actually separate from the love we spent our whole lives chasing. The loving eyes of God, Singer says, are not waiting for you to become better before they're willing to look at you. They are already looking. They have always been looking. The question is whether you are willing to return that gaze, to look back without flinching, without performance, without the mask. This is what genuine spiritual practice moves toward. Not the accumulation of spiritual knowledge or the performance of rituals, but the willingness to be completely open, completely honest, completely present, and to discover that in that total exposure you are not destroyed. You are held, you are known, and you are loved in a way that has no conditions, no expiration date, and no exceptions. That is the promise of this chapter. That is what Singer is pointing to, and it is available to you right now, exactly as you are. I really appreciate you giving this chapter your time and attention today. Sitting with ideas like this takes something, and it matters. Before you go, I want to leave you with one question to sit with, and feel free to drop your answer in the comments below. What part of yourself have you been keeping hidden? From others, from yourself, maybe even from the universe? And what do you think would actually change if you allowed yourself to be fully seen, exactly as you are? There's no right answer, just whatever's honest for you. If this resonated and you want to keep going through the Untethered Soul chapter by chapter, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.